everybody, Matt here from the Heritage Volunteering Group, and today I'm going to talk to you about the role that virtual volunteering can play in helping us transform our organisations and the lives of people living in our local communities. But before I do that, I'd like to start by telling you a little bit of a story about two volunteer managers, Buzz and Woody. Both Buzz and Woody work in small museums in a town called Littlefootock, and both have been asked to recruit volunteers to run tours at their respective museums. Buzz, someone who loves getting things done, sits down at their computer and hammers out a role description. Wanted volunteers to run information points, slots available 9 till 5, 7 days a week, training provided, expenses paid. Apply now to meet new people and make a difference. Buzz then advertises the role on the museum's website and at the local volunteer centre and sits back and waits for the applications to roll in, which they do. In the end, Buzz ends up recruiting 15 new tour guides, all white, all well educated and all well off. Meanwhile, Woody, who takes a more strategic approach to life, has just finished browsing the internet. No, he's not been looking for a new Stetson. Instead, he's been doing some research. And now he's finished, Woody knows that Littlefootock has a problem. It has high unemployment rates amongst under 24-year-olds. Thinks Woody, my museum wants to engage young people more. I need to give tours and there's lots of young people looking for work experience. After a bit more browsing, he finds the phone number of a youth engagement charity and gives them a call. Not long after, they've co-created a role that will ensure the museum has the tours it needs whilst providing young people with valuable customer service experience. Woody's also offered to arrange customer service training, CV writing workshops and interview training for the young volunteers. A year later, both museums are still providing tours to their visitors. However, Woody's volunteer programme has also helped 7 of its volunteers find work, and the council has awarded the museum a gold star for its contribution to tackling youth unemployment in the area. What Woody's strategic approach to volunteer engagement shows that if we think differently about volunteering, it can not only meet the operational needs of our sites, but also deliver strategic and social outcomes too. In Woody's case, engaging young people and supporting Littlefootock Town Council's ambitions to tackle youth unemployment. This approach applies equally to in-person and virtual volunteering. So, given the impact that can be made through both in-person and virtual roles, you might expect them to have a similar prominence in our volunteer programmes. However, this just isn't the case. Although virtual volunteering arguably dates back to the 1970s when Project Gutenberg began involving volunteers in its digitisation work, by the time NCVO published Time Well Spent, their groundbreaking research into volunteer involvement in 2019, only 6% of people undertook their volunteering exclusively online. And this was reflected in the work that we did at Heritage Volunteering Group, where a similar study from the same period suggested that only 5% of volunteering roles in the heritage sector were virtual. Although COVID has had a significant impact on where people volunteer, rates of virtual volunteering have remained low, with only 5% of respondents to NCVO's 2023 study saying they conducted their volunteering exclusively online. So, why is this? Well, although there's no empirical evidence to explain this imbalance, conversations with HVG members indicate several key themes. Firstly, virtual volunteering is not seen as a volunteering priority by many organisations. Instead, the focus, and therefore the focus of resources, is targeted on gallery roles like Buzz and Woody's information points. Secondly, virtual volunteering projects can be complex to set up and often require cross-organisational work. You might be like Woody and see the strategic value in a virtual volunteering project, but you're still going to have to get curatorial and maybe ICT colleagues involved to make that project a reality. In turn, this can make it seem like involving volunteers in virtual projects is more trouble than it's worth. And finally, depending on the nature of the project, they can be expensive to set up, especially if you're going to have to buy new equipment. At HVG, we talk about those who work with volunteers as leaders of volunteer engagement, and that's because the skills that you need are more akin to leadership than management. And what I mean by this is you're going to need to think strategically, motivate, engage, and inspire colleagues if you're going to deliver a great volunteer programme. And if you're going to unlock the power of virtual volunteering, you're going to need to use these skills to overcome the barriers that I've just mentioned. To do this, though, you're going to need to get buy-in from colleagues from across your organisation, and that means you're going to need to influence effectively. And this is a complex area of leadership, and I'd highly recommend grabbing a copy of Robert Cialdini's masterwork on the subject, in which he talks about the 6 principles of persuasion. If you're not a big reader, don't worry, we do have a recommended read on this, and you can check that out on our YouTube channel. However, from our point of view, we can boil it down to 4 key ideas. Firstly, be clear about the operational, strategic and social benefits of virtual volunteering to your organisation and to your colleagues. Secondly, take time to understand the challenges faced by your colleagues, in particular when it comes to setting up virtual volunteering projects. Then communicate clearly and supportively how a virtual volunteering project might help them and the organisation meet these challenges. And lastly, be flexible. Life is about give and take after all. Going back to that first point, we need to be clear about the operational, strategic and social benefits of virtual volunteering to our organisation so we can clearly articulate them to colleagues. Of course, they're going to be different for each project, organisation and location. However, what you can see here are some of the broad benefits that you might expect to see. Operationally, virtual volunteering can enable organisations to complete work that just wouldn't be possible otherwise by providing additional resource and expertise. Strategically, they can help us extend our organisation's reach, they can deepen engagement with the collections and make our organisations more inclusive by offering flexible, low-cost ways of volunteering. In terms of impact and social impact, if we offer the right support, they can provide valuable experiences, create digital skills development opportunities, and address issues of social isolation. Now, when we think of virtual volunteering in a heritage setting, we often think of collections research type roles. However, there are arguably, should I say, 3 broad types of virtual volunteering projects. Probably the most popular is the collections-based volunteering projects that I've mentioned, and these are typically metadata type projects where volunteers are enhancing collections records. The most famous examples of these types of projects can be found on Zooniverse. The second is admin volunteering, and this is where volunteers support a range of traditional office-based roles that may include producing newsletters, research and writing blogs. And if you're thinking about social impact, this type of role can provide a great way of offering skills-based volunteering opportunities. The third type of role is visitor engagement. This is where we take on-gallery roles like talks and tours and make them available online. These can provide real strategic benefits as they can help your organisation extend its reach, build engagement with the collection and grow your audience. Before we move on, I just want to give you 3 practical examples of projects that I've been involved with that showcase these various types of roles. The first is an example of a collections role from the National Railway Museum where I'm based. Railway Workers' Life and Death, a collaborative project with the University of Portsmouth, has seen virtual volunteers transcribe over 20,000 railway worker accidents. And this project has enabled the NRM and the University of Portsmouth to speak about the subject at conferences, is featured in Who Do You Think You Are magazine, and of course has made this valuable information available to the public for the first time. The second example is Vocalize's Heritage Access project, and this was an admin type project that saw 60 virtual volunteers with personal experience of access barriers review the websites of over 3,000 museums and heritage sites. This resulted in the publication of a major report into the experience, barriers and access provisions for deaf, disabled and neurodivergent visitors. One of the great things about this project was its enrichment and engagement offer. Volunteers met frequently online as a team, were provided with loads of training and had access to virtual talks and tours. The project was such a success that Catherine, the volunteer manager, went on to win the Heritage Volunteering Group Leader of the Year award in 2022. The final example is of some visitor engagement roles from the Science Museum. During COVID, like elsewhere, our museums closed. However, many of our volunteers still wanted to continue to support us and continue in their visitor engagement roles. And this provided us with a great opportunity and saw us move object handling at the National Science and Media Museum and tour guiding at the Science and Industry Museum and Locomotion online. Virtual visitors could sign up for sessions in advance and were given the chance to hear about subjects ranging from Manchester's role in understanding the atom to the development of the radio. So we've talked about the barriers to virtual volunteering, its value to our organisations, how we might influence more effectively to create virtual roles and the form that these roles might take. Now let's put all of that together and think about the steps we can take when creating and recruiting for new virtual roles. To do this, I'm going to talk through these 6 steps that you can see here using our friend Woody as a practical example. And instead of using a traditional collections type role, I'm going to opt for a visitor facing one, as this is an area of real potential for museums. So the first step we need to take is to give virtual volunteering a strategic focus. And to do this, we need to understand and view our museum's strategic objectives through the lens of volunteering. And what I mean by this is, how can virtual volunteering help deliver our museum's strategic ambitions? And this provides a different perspective on volunteer involvement and forces us to ask not only what do we want volunteers to do, but how, why and who do we want to do it. To do this, Woody has hopped back on the internet and read his museum's strategic plan, which outlines several areas of strategic importance, including increasing access to the collection, growing youth engagement, and addressing the digital skills gap in the local community. Following this, we need to identify where virtual volunteer support is needed. When identifying areas of involvement, consider how the types of virtual roles you create are structured to ensure a broad range of people can participate. Matching the types of virtual roles you create to your museum's strategic ambitions can help deepen impact. Building on the previous example, Woody has, by working with colleagues across the museum, identified a need for a virtual object handling role that will help the museum increase access to the collection. Next, we should consider the target audience for each of our roles. For some roles, this will mean targeting young people. For others, it might be targeting the long-term unemployed or the socially isolated. Thinking about not only what people do, but who does it is crucial to unlocking the power of virtual volunteering and delivering strategically and socially impactful volunteer programs. So, for his object handling role, Woody has identified young people as his target audience, and as he knows they are strategically important to the museum. Once we've identified the audience we want to recruit, we should identify community groups and charities we can work with to engage these audiences. By working in collaboration with partners, we can co-create virtual roles that are far more suitable for the people that we want to involve. They can also provide support and training for us and our colleagues. So Woody did what he did with the virtual tour guide role. He picked up the phone and called a youth engagement charity. Together they shaped the virtual object handling role to ensure it would work for the museum and the new recruits. Detailed application forms and formal interviews can create real barriers to recruitment, so removing them is crucial to making our roles and programmes more accessible. And this is particularly important for virtual roles where a light touch approach to recruitment and training can be far more appropriate. With this in mind, Woody has simply asked people to provide their contact details and has focused their induction on the role they're doing, making it short and engaging. Finally, to deepen the impact made through your virtual roles and to make them more attractive, we need to tailor the enrichment and engagement experiences we provide, like our events and training, to meet the needs of the audience we are trying to attract. And to do this, Woody has worked with the charity, and together they have identified the need for digital and presentation skills training. This will help the volunteers deliver the project, give them valuable employment skills, and support the council's ambitions to bridge the digital skills gap in the area. By taking this approach, Woody was able to deliver a virtual volunteering project that met the museum's needs and those of the people living in the local area. The museum's brand grew as virtual visitors attended the online session, access to the collection was increased, and several of the volunteers found work as a result of their experiences that they gained on the project. So, to recap, how can we be more like Woody and unlock the power of virtual volunteering? Firstly, we need to recognise our roles as leaders and the part we have to play in developing virtual volunteering. We then need to take a strategic approach to creating roles, making sure we fully understand how virtual volunteering can contribute to our organisation's ambitions. We need to identify where virtual volunteering can make an impact and use our influence as leaders to get colleagues to make those roles a reality. We then need to match those roles to target audiences to amplify the impact that they have. Being careful to remove barriers to participation, we can then work with community partners to help shape the roles we create, recruit our target audiences, and make sure that we're providing tailored enrichment and engagement activities. If we can do all of these things, we can be more like Woody and unlock the power of virtual volunteering. Thank you.